Hey y'all, it's Alexis from Ask Alexis here, and I am here with my great friend Jessica Dickson. And I'm also tired because y'all been getting a lot of me lately. Not to mention I got clients, and I just started a course on Friday, so this is gonna be a comfy couch conversation. And Jessica is an amazing woman who teaches anti-racism based on the Enneagram, and that is just one of the many wonderful hats that she wears. I just want to tell you more about her, except I'm gonna let her do it because she can do it way better than me. So, Jessica, let them know a little bit about you.
Well, thank you. So, Jessica Denise Dickson, Black mermaid, amongst many other things. Very magical human you have in front of you. And yeah, I think, what you said was spot on. I live in San Diego, California. I am originally from Michigan. Grew up in a little town called Inkster. And then I moved.
Inkster is, listen, she say little town. No, Inkster is the hood. I live in Detroit right now, and you go to Inkster and you watch your back. Don't let that voice fool you. Wait a minute.
Stop.
I know Inkster, boo. I said no. You on Cherry Hill or Inkster? Where Inkster? What? Never mind. That's too much business.
Oh gosh. Yeah, we'll talk
I'm
about
just
that
saying. Don't. She tough.
I also do teach fitness class. I teach a mixed martial arts based cardio class and a weight class. So I will break something down on you if need be. What else about
the grumpy bear is sitting up front while you say that?
I feel that. I totally feel that. Yeah, I do Enneagram work. I help people transform. One of my main purposes on this world is that Black women heal, that Black women take up their most authentic self and let go of the shit that stops them from being who they were truly, who I was truly created to be. And a lot of times in this world that's stopped by things like whiteness, and it so permeates our world that we don't even recognize it for what it is. And so it's just, for me, my work is shedding light on it and helping women see there's another way that you can move forward, that you can liberate yourself. You don't have to wait for anyone else. And yeah, so that's why I'm here.
Awesome. And it is so wonderful because I don't think I knew that. Like, to meet a fellow person who has a life mission that restores love, right? That is like, hey, I'm gonna do this work and I'm going to also be fun and playful and liberated in my full embodiment of whatever that looks like to me, because I'm not just one thing, I'm all these things.
Oh, there's the Walt Whitman quote where he says, he talks about contradicting himself. He says, well, I contradict myself, I contain multitudes. And it's like, yep, that's me. That's all of us. And
break that down a little bit, and then remind me, I got a pin mark to go back to ask. But say that from your Inkster side.
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, we have been reduced to and objectified. I talked a lot about being objectified. Like, we reduce someone to the thing we don't like about them or the thing we do like about them, and then they only get to be that thing. And quite frankly, we are made to be these huge, massive beings, not these small, reduced, bite-sized little things. Like, that's not who we were created to be. And sometimes society can tell us, you're not made to be more. You're made to be small, but that's some bullshit, and that's just, it's false. Like, and
nothing about me ever been small, and except for my ability to believe.
Yeah.
And
yep.
So, but wait. We just went way right there, right early, fast on. We didn't even warm the people up. Tell people what an Enneagram is again.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Enneagram. Okay. So a lot of people compare it to things like the Myers-Briggs or the Strengths Quest. So some people talk about it as a personality typing system where you can learn something about yourself. And I think that that's fine. But really, the Enneagram, I mean, I consider it this deep, beautiful, holistic, spiritual, integrated development system. And the focus of this system, so you find out what your core type is, so that you can actually learn more about your motivations. So what are the things that you're not conscious of usually that are driving you forward? They often come with our biggest ways that we survive in the world, the ways that we have learned to be successful and make it in a world that really is hard and kind of sucks at times. And they also show us the things that we avoid. They point us to our core fears and our core desires. And there's a lot more in it, but that's the basic of it. And so when I'm doing work, especially with women of color, who obviously I'm super passionate about, we focus on, okay, like, what is your type? What are the ways that whiteness has conditioned you to be, so you can let that shit go? And really, what are the ways that your culture, which, you know, people of color have a lot of honor for where we come from our culture, from our ancestors. And sometimes that can be really great. And sometimes that can feel a lot like a burden, you know, because our ancestors, that what was success for them, you know, is not necessarily the same thing that is success for us. And so sometimes the work is being able to honor that culture and being able to say, this is like who I truly am, and this is what I truly want to create in the world. And so, and I believe that healing, it ripples back and it ripples forward. And so, you know, there's a lot of research about inherited, you know, epigenetics and how how stuff is passed down, you know, in our genes, in our bodies.
Resilience.
So, including, absolutely, absolutely. And so when we heal, when I get to heal something about my finances, I don't just get to heal my own stuff. I get to heal, like, my grandma, who grew up in the Great Depression and had stuff about finances her whole life, right? So it's beautiful to be able to actually, like, find your way to your authentic self. And it's a journey that we're all on, and we will all be on until we, you know, leave this earth. But while we're here, we might as well uncover the truest version of ourselves so that we can really shine and be who we're made to be. So I believe that the work with the Enneagram and doing that specific parsing out, like, what's whiteness? What's really me? Like, who am I? That really helps. I believe in it so much.
Well, that was a whole word and a half, and I hope y'all caught up. One thing I do want to say, if you need a good way to understand epigenetics, watch my interview with Brendan Ellis Williams, because we spliced in a YouTube video that explains the effects of epigenetics in 10 minutes. And it gives you a really cool way to understand how that could integrate into your own ancestral practice and all kind of other great stuff. Just want to throw that in there since you brought up epigenetics, because we big on epigenetics here at Ask Alexa. We change generations at the same damn time.
Okay, talk about it. Yes, I'm here for it.
What I find interesting is, so the Enneagram is something I'm becoming more and more familiar with, but I had my own spiritual awakening in 2016. And a lot of the concepts that you are referring to, they came to me like in downloads, but they work. I have different titles for it, but they work quite similarly. And I have different practices, but the more I'm learning about these wellness practices, the more I'm realizing, oh, I just did that with whatever I had available at hand, right? Yeah. Like, so now I'm developing this course because I also realized something. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you the name of the course, and I'm gonna tell you what I realized, and then now how awesome it feels, right? So you notice I put a cheer bear at first, right? I put her up front, moved her back, because, all right, so it's gonna be called Wellness the ratchet way, a reclamation of your authentic self.
Ooh.
Because this is the thing. I grew up in the suburbs of Detroit, and I went to this very integrated school, and I am a slow getter but a fast learner, and I was always incredibly analytical and always this deep thinker, and that also, because of some of the trauma and chaos I experienced, caused me to go in some really dark holes because my thoughts have always just been expansive. And so, but then my mother, she did a great thing, and she put me like, I had to meet the school social worker. Like, I can remember doing that till I was in the 5th grade, but my father died when I was 5.
Mm.
So it was clear that I was a child who was affected, and she was a single mother. So she had an addiction, and then we moved to Detroit, to a house where you could see the sky without us having a skylight when
Oh,
we first moved in.
I hear you.
And they patched it, and then it got fixed eventually. But coming from living in a condo with a swimming pool and a tennis court to a house where and I'm 12, a house where you could see the sky was quite jarring for my consciousness. And then everything about me was too much.
Culture
But
shock.
things were already too much about me. I was overly analytical. I was all these critical things in the suburbs. But then now I'm too white. I just was too much. Anyway, so all of that, that just gives the perspective that I was a suburb, but I had to survive, right?
Yep.
But what I become? A motherfucking hood rat, right? Like, and but it wasn't on purpose. It was finding, and I don't mean that in any kind of bad way, because I found the most community I've ever found. And then when I went to college, I learned that that's typically how poorer communities are. There's much more communion and value and reverence for experience and belonging and safety. And yes, it'd be some toxic shit due to trauma in there because of it. But that don't mean it ain't love. I found some of my best friends. I found, frankly, so now I'm like, you want street smart and book smart? I'm your girl. Like, that's just, and that's not, but then now in this awakened version of myself, that's also what makes me relatable when I volunteer in the prisons. That is what made me relatable when I was talking to people, when I helped my friend campaign. Like, and then those things weren't who I was. That shit came as downloads, right? And it was just like, okay, it makes me happy when I do the downloads, I'll do those. I taught myself how to twerk using body, and I'm still learning. I'm like, now I'm trying to figure out how to throw it in a circle. But I taught myself the belly dance bells, because I was doing this thing where I wasn't looking in the mirror for 30 days, and I was just trying to feel my body since I can't look at it. And the bells.
Whoa. I want to hear more about that. Tell me about the Mrs. Mirror thing. Why did I stop?
I don't know why I stopped looking in. Well, I can tell you the benefits that happened, but it was a download. It was, my moonbeam was talking to me, and it was just like abstain from looking in the mirror. It's kind of like when Beyonce said on Lemonade, but it was like, it was a thing. Yeah. It was one of them downloads. Frankly, but at this stage, I knew what they felt like.
I love that.
And so I covered every mirror in my house and took other ones down and went on with my life. And the thing that what it gave me first was the ability to connect with other people much better, because they were my mirrors. That gave me a level of self-awareness that was multi-sensory.
Yeah.
It gave me a sense of self-worth, and like, as far as my looks, like right now, I don't have on a lick of makeup, but I feel incredibly beautiful. I was admiring myself before you got on the call.
You're gorgeous.
Thank you. But I didn't feel that way before because of how much effort I put into being gorgeous, or feeling like doing what I thought I had to do to feel that way. And I got the same number of compliments. There were some days that, because of all the habits, I was able to put on some makeup without looking, because I could feel my way through it. And then when I went out, I had to just trust that it wasn't all over my face. And people didn't tell me it was. I don't know. Either way, people would be like, give me the same amount of compliments.
Right.
My hair, it's locked. And so I don't really have to do much to it, except when it's time. Like, even now, I got this headband on to smooth down my edges, because I need to wash and do the thing. but I'm fine with this style, right? Like I began to, but I got to embody my body because I'm a very cerebral person. So because I couldn't look in the mirror, I had to think about my body and
Mm.
think about like have that being my reflection.
Yeah.
And it was so that like it was an amazing time. I caught my reflection once or twice during the process, like in a car window, but I
Mm-hmm.
would purposefully look away.
Right.
It made me be able to pay attention to people's micro expressions more, which being a cerebral person, actually I used to have a lot, not wow, I'm getting a lot more understanding of what happened during this time because
Yeah.
I used to have trouble reading people's emotions. Like I would say things rather bluntly when compassion maybe should be there, or
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
because I didn't, because for me things were very factual or
Yeah.
logical and I didn't recognize the value of feelings. It's so funny. I cuss my, well, I didn't cuss my daddy out, but he used to tell me, "Don't listen to what you feel, listen to what I say." And so then this morning,
Ah,
today is
I've
birthday,
heard that one before.
and he was alcoholic, so he was just extra harsh with it. And
Mhm.
it was more like, "Don't listen to what the fuck you feel, listen to what I say." So then today is birthday, and I've been feeling myself lately. And this morning I woke up and I was like, I, went to the bathroom. I came out, busted in this room, and I was like, "As a matter of fact, Dad, people pay me my rate," which I said in numbers, to listen to what the fuck I feel and not what they say because they don't know how they feel. So in your face. And he just laughed. But it was a liberating moment for me. Because
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, no, that's my superpower, is that I can give so the analytical part of me can give the language
Yeah.
from the empathetic part of me. And then through that, we just be unlocking all that epigenetic generational stuff
Yep.
in the embodied practice.
Yep. That
And
embodiment,
so
it make it.
wellness the ratchet way, a reclamation of your authentic self. If I could learn to twerk with belly chains without drinking, that's important. But I quit drinking in this journey too. There were times where I might have twerked a little. I have a past. Told you I was a hood rat for a while. I didn't even know. I was so busy trying to be professional, didn't realize I had the most fun when I was starting it up. And I don't mean that in a sexual way. Although I was sexy as fuck during the time. Sorry.
Hey, you know what?
But I want, at the point that I can find now after that awakening and the integration of my embodied, intentional, conscious living uh, self, heal my inner child. I'm sitting here with a bunch of fucking Care Bears, right? And I love them. They're bringing me joy. I feel life is very surreal right now, and I'm clearer and clearer, which brings me more stability and growing up in all that chaos. But doing the work of the actual releases in my body and I can feel it on many levels.
Yeah.
I'm also in service and I love teaching. So it may be similar to the work that you do with the Enneagram, but for me, it's the way that I understand it. And I want people who grew up like me to have the ability to create this stability too.
Yeah. Because we're really in so many ways are just like taught that this way is the only way for you to be, or it's like we're taught often, don't trust your feelings, don't trust your body, don't trust we're taught to not trust anything. And if you grew up in the church like me, it's like only God is trustworthy. So it's like, your heart's wicked, you can't trust your mind, it's like you can't trust your body because it's the flesh and it's evil. That's like I don't, now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, what I realized was missing was actually teaching people how to be discerning. And it's not that your body is just this evil thing. It's that you actually just need to learn how to figure out what it's saying so that you're not driven by it unconsciously.
Say that again for the people in the back.
Because there's so much that happens in our body that's speaking to us all the time, that's telling us, do this, don't do this, this is wrong. And we're taught from outside of us to not trust it.
Where do we experience our reality? Where do we experience this physical world?
In this beautiful home.
So how could we not do you know how psychologically mind ripping, numbing, stifling it is to not be able to trust home? I know that in a physical and cognitive and emotional and spiritual level.
Yeah.
I am liberated from all that shit in this now moment in a way that I have not experienced before. And that only encourages me to feel like there are more and more levels up. Because if you knew where I came from, you would not, how much I had to stay the course with this knowledge while still experiencing the residual stuff as it was healing.
Yep. Yeah.
You can tell me a lot because I'm very open-minded. I believe in both band. I want to be clear on that. But I will say this, in this now moment, I understand how people get drunk on ego because this personality feels amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if is it ego? Like, is it ego when you're actually in touch with yourself and you're in touch with spirit? Or is it just like that you are?
So that's a both and thing too, right?
Yeah,
like,
talk to me about it.
We have to experience life just like we have to, there's this physical world in our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have a personality, a ego to.
Oh yeah, that's what the Enneagram's all about. Yeah, I agree with that.
It through.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the thing is, all tools are good tools. It's when they're overused that they can manifest in ways that are not beneficial for our mutual evolution. So this tool feels really amazing. And there are a lot of chemicals being released in my brain in quantities that they may not have been released in before. And that release, so the only time I felt these kind of releases before when I like for a summer I was a gambling addict. Mm-hmm. And you get addicted to the moment before the outcome. Right. Because it has so much believable, palpable hope. But then too, in that moment, because it's gambling and the casinos wasn't built on winners, there is this like you can also have devastating loss because the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, and then that's also the loss. And you got to experience that, and then you're judging yourself for that because now you realize that it was a compulsion and you would not normally have made that risk. So, but then when you're a spiritual being, and embodiment is a part of the process, but there's this alignment though. Mm-hmm. Between your soul, your mind, your physical body, and then your soul's destiny, right? There's the way that you experience it feels quite similar to that moment before the outcome. And I can understand, just like I understand how people could be addicted to gambling, how people get addicted to creating this kind of experience because it feels exhilarating. I also know how people get ungrounded spiritually when they feel like this because it feels exhilarating. So the thing that is different about me now than when during that summer, the one thing, now I say this, my over analytical mind saved me, and my judgmental self saved me from being a gambling addict because I worked in the casino for 9 years. So I was, for me to be a gambling addict, and then for me to value education and competence and all that shit to the extreme levels that I did, when I realized that I was actually like my goal, my intention, I didn't call it intention then, right. But my intention was to lose all my money because as long as I had money, I would get the chemicals and it was a good time. When I didn't have no money was when I was leaving. And sometimes that included not having access to money. Right? And so it was like, oh no, Alexis, you are everything you've judged and you just can't respect yourself if you keep doing it. So it was a cold turkey experience. It was I had my roommate helping me for a minute. Like,
it's so easy to get stuck in those cycles, isn't it?
Huh?
Those cycles, you just slip. You can just slip into them and just They just move and they just keep repeating.
That's the evolution of life, right? Like that's the part that makes, so when it mentioned earlier, you don't know, like when it's like you don't know what I came from.
Right.
When you're manifesting your reality, you still got to go through where you only wake up from where you are.
Yep.
Right? And whatever point in your physical life, because you weren't aware of more than physical life before that, you have to and like you get that moment of connection and awareness, so you have the knowledge of it. But then you still got to go through the journey of becoming whatever knowledge you got during that moment. And that means rewiring literally your life's perceiver, which is your brain.
And your nervous system.
And your nervous system. Yeah, well, your brain is, the brain rules the nervous system, right? Like, so
the whole
that vagus nerve,
of it. Yeah.
that vagus nerve is telling you what your reality is through all of your sensory perception, and it encompasses the outer part of your brain. So the world is really literally reflected back to you through your perceptions. Like it's a factual scientific thing. And then you bring this spiritual awareness to it. You have to, but that means, so I woke up broke. I was also depressed. My man just left me. I lost my job. I was fearful of how I would hold on to my house. Every single one of my relationships went through turmoil or ended. I already had abandonment and fear issues. I had unpacked, like, so life, while it does get better and better and better, the way I explain it is if you wake up on a number, like you got negative numbers over here on a number line and positive numbers over here, and somewhere is zero. If I woke up with spiritual consciousness on the negative side, the world that's manifested to me still got a lot of bullshit in it. And the thing about where we go against spiritual bypass for non-BIPOC people is that the amount of energy that I have to put towards still knowing that there is something over here, that's a deficit to my spiritual evolution. That's a deficit to my ability to fulfill my life's purpose. That's a deficit to my physical being's ability to be able to play a part in a shared and inclusive, authentic, safe future. That's a deficit to my ability to be aware of my oneness, because how can I be a part of my oneness if everything is so difficult and against me?
Yeah.
So, however, to my non-white clients, and so, all the people of color, because anyway, to them, there are times based on the zodiac when it is spiritual bypass is a tool that is efficient to do so. You still got to go through the reality, but because we got to go through all of that bullshit, when you get really into your perception of time, you can bend the negative timeline and get the vision over here to know what to hold on to. That don't mean you ain't got to go through the physical reality. You still gonna have to walk through that, because that's where the 3D body is. Yeah. But the amount of time that it takes to go through it shortens because you bent it. And then there is what happens is you get clarity, and the closer and closer you get to the thing you got as the download when you bypassed, the clearer and clearer and clearer you are to what your lighthouse is. And then you hit zero. And at zero, you don't have any kind of mental equivalent for what they expect. And sometimes people fall off on that because maybe they are in a cycle where they're not realizing that nervousness and excitement, are the same in the body. Or maybe along their journey, they just stopped here and they didn't do the work to build their knowledge for what to expect beyond here. Or maybe they are stifled in imagination because they might not be artistic, right? Mm-hmm. And so wellness the ratchet way, it's so funny. I'm getting so much more clarity about what it is, because this was a download this week, and it's just something that has excited me that I want to do.
That's so wonderful.
So wellness the ratchet way is tools to be able to develop so neurons that wire together, fire together. Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, a lot of times you grew up in chaos. You are an experiential learner, and you learn based on your reactions, and then you do that whole bring the past from the now. So you got to start creating. It's a whole process where to me, I call it conscious memory stacking. So some shit just too fucked up. You can't be, if you release that all at one time, you release too much identity, right? And so if you do that, that's how people end up in the mental institution, right? Like too much identity be gone. Anyway, well, that's
It's
a
not
way.
a fast
That,
track. It's not
that
a,
yeah, that's a way that could happen. I definitely don't want to. I'm not saying that that's the only way, but I have seen that effect.
it's real.
So then you have to start in your now moment, being present and developing the ability to forecast, to send positivity to your future, because now it's fucked up. But you got to develop the ability to send, because thoughts go where you send them in time. So you got to develop the ability to send positive to your future while still responding to the negativity that you are existing in, but being able to see the better, that vision you got when you bypass, give you that guiding light.
Yep.
And you hold on to that guide and light. And then here's the thing, more reality, the stuff you begin to allow in is alarmingly specific because it ain't that many positive thoughts. So it's really easy for it to slip in because you ain't never gave resistance to it because you didn't, it was, you exist, you only thought a negative. That shit didn't exist before it existed, right? So it's really easy for them to drop into the reality. And that's what lets you know you could do it. But then once you know you could do it, what is that highly analytical mind, because I'm changing language, and that highly analytical mind begins to start to sabotage. And then that's when the healing journey begins. And hopefully you take my course or hire me for one-on-one, or someone like Jessica, you get you somebody to walk you through that shit, because it is not for the faint of heart. No. But it is all absolutely worth it. And you learn to be a tender heart.
Oh, it takes I love that you talk, you have these Care Bears and you talked about the tender heart, because it takes,
this is all brand new this morning, right now in the conversation. I know it seemed way more put together than that, but this is what the fuck I mean by when you don't have a concept, it is easy to drop in. These was a miraculous, wonderful gift to my porch. I realized I am a Care Bear, and now I'm embodying this shit, and it is appropriate in the conversation. That was not planned, and I know you don't believe me, but you don't have to, because I experienced it, and that's enough for me.
Well, I mean, your willingness to do what you know to do is a big difference. Other people might have a similar experience, but they don't trust it. But you're trusting it right now, and you're choosing to have the courage to say, yep, this is what it is. And
because them chemicals feel so damn good, I'm addicted.
Hey.
In their mind, brain chemicals, right? Like it is. Wait a minute. You mean to tell me I just thought this up? It is like masturbating, but with reality.
And there's so many levels. Things just get better and juicier and more pleasurable. More and more.
I feel like I told way more than I planned to, Jessica. I don't know what you got, but you just pulled it out. Frank, yes, I know what you got. I didn't guard it. That's okay.
I've heard that before. It's a thing. It's okay though. It's beautiful.
Now, wait a minute. You gotta listen. This got to be a mutual revelating experience. So you gonna get us a juicy story before you leave. These is comfy couch conversations. Okay. You need sunshine. Tell us something you did that was fun and wild that you didn't expect, that your liberated self did. Ooh, that your old self would have judged.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. What do you want me to share, girl? What
I don't know. I don't know. I'm still getting to know you. Tell me something. Listen, give me I know I seen on one of your posts you did a boudoir shoot. Mm-hmm. I know that you learned to love some squishy parts, but that feels like a very, vanilla way to say how some of them lessons might have come. So consent is key. You set your boundary, and then give us as many details as you are willing to give. Yeah. And then before you go, we got to talk about your post and what is, because that post is how we got here, and it was hot fire like Dylan.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, well, let's talk about my boudoir photos, because they have been so important to who I am as a human being, like to who I am as a person. I went through so much of my life feeling like I'm too fat, I'm too much, my body's too big, I'm not sure who will love me, even though it didn't stop me from enjoying my body. You know, it didn't stop me from any of those things. But there was still this message in my mind that my big body was unworthy. And I decided a boudoir photographer had a deal. She has a special every year where you can have a $99 photo shoot. And I was like, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna get like the 3 free pictures that come with the shoot, with the special. And I went, and it was just so liberal. I was sick. I was like just hopped up on medicine and ill, but it was the most amazing experience to be in touch with like who I am and to see how perfect my body was. And it didn't have to be small to be perfect. It was perfect because it was my home. And it was the thing that allowed me to be in the world. Like without it, I had spent so much of my fucking life judging her. But she's how I got around. Like how much you sit around judging her?
There you are.
So, I mean, those boudoir it was like a lesson, because before my shoot, I was like, oh, I'm going to work out a ton and I'm going to like get some cuts in these places in my body. And I'm just going to make sure. And I was sick, which means I hardly worked out the weeks before. And guess what? When I got my photos back, I was still delicious. Like there was no part of me that was any less juicy or delicious, you know, than if I had had more cuts. And so for me, it's really been a journey of into myself and into seeing like, oh shit, like I believed this thing that was false, which was that my body needed to be a certain way. I needed to be a certain way in order to experience the full love that I really desired, when the truth is, like, when I love my body and when I love myself for the ways that I am amazing, and even the ways that I can be like trash as fuck sometimes. Like I can be real bogus and all the things that I'm just like, oh, that was ugly. You need to not do that again ever.
Mean girl.
When I was able to love myself for all of that, like my world just opened. My world opened. I'm like, I want every person to know that feeling.
Did loving the parts of you that you consider, your words, not mine, I would not talk to you or against you in this way, trash as fuck.
Yeah.
Did loving that part of you make you less of that more often?
Not necessarily. But what it gave me was access to my full humanity. And when I was able to see myself as fully human, I was able to catch it faster. Now, it didn't necessarily happen less, but I caught it and was able to be like, oh, that does not work. That doesn't work because it's just not who I want to be in the world. Like it'll be a part of me, but I get to actually choose like what I'm putting out. So it's like I catch it, and then it's like, oh, is that part of my goal? Oh, no. Okay, we're not doing that today then. Cool. Let's move on.
So that kind of feels like, yes, you were less often, simply because when you caught it, you looked at it and was like, oh, that's not what I want to be.
Yep. Yeah.
So let me tell y'all,
it still showed up, but it was just like I was at the cause of the matter. It wasn't just like this thing that, you know, happened and then I had to like clean up all the devastation, when I actually was able to just like love myself and own all of myself. When a part of myself that showed up that wasn't actually like pushing forward my goals, I was able to just be like, oh, not today, and just move on. But without the judgment, without the, oh my God, this makes me the worst. I'm the worst. No one's gonna love me. I've fucked up again. It's like, okay, yeah, you are human. Cool.
And people don't even like perfect people. They find them boring.
Or like something that they need to like try to imitate, and they don't like that either. They don't like people they feel like they have to compete with.
Right. So, but this is now we developing together. Thank you for this co-creation. Wellness the ratchet way. Let me tell y'all how to do a boudoir shoot feeling on a budget. Because maybe you can't afford, if you woke up where I woke up, you can't afford necessarily the boudoir shoot. And I'm not about to tell you to start sexting, although that's your prerogative. If you do, just know it's out there forever. But I fully support, I'm a pleasure enthusiast. So, um, no judgment. But my this is wisdom from my best good homie B Hall. I made a video about him. Oh wait, I was too late. B he did. So
You're so goofy. Oh my
I am. I love it though. But
Me too.
he used to give all this wisdom, right? And this is wisdom from him that is seemingly falling right out of my mind because I got all caught up in saying his last name. Damn it. Oh, he it's misogyny in there, but you'll hear some logic and know that he always loved me and kept me safe. He just also had asshole tendencies until because he was on his own journey, but he made it. Um, he told me, he was like, listen, he said this as a criticism. He's like, Halloween is an excuse for girls to dress like sluts. But then when I looked at Halloween and Halloween costumes that were available for women, you are either like a full dress Care Bear or a slutty Care Bear, right? Slutty Bear. And that's like, might be the name of the costume. So I just dressed up, but I like dress up and I'm an intense person. So one year I dressed up like a dominatrix for Halloween. And I was a cocktail waitress, so I had money to invest in my outfit, and I bought a corset, but I was going to a party, right? Like, so I bought a corset and a leather skirt, and then my hair wasn't locked. It was like I have curly hair, so what I did was I hairsprayed it up with a blow dryer into like this Trojan mohawk,
Ooh.
and I sprayed it gold with the spray hair paint, and I fully embodied that. And then I went to some fetish like Halloween party with me and my group of friends, which was a brand new experience, way outside of our comfort zone. But the reason I'm saying that's doing it on a budget is because if you are going to parties at whatever level you can, Halloween is an excuse for girls to dress like sluts. And though I fully am down with women's liberation, I don't mean slut in a bad way, but that's a time where you can go out and feel a little bit safer because we do have to figure out how to do it as a woman.
Yeah.
Be a little bit safer exposing more of your skin or feeling more of your sexuality, because many women will be doing it with you, so there's some solidarity. And then what that actually creates is more inclusion and liberation and expression in that way. So maybe maybe Halloween is a women's sexual
It's a good
liberation
time.
holiday. I don't
Yeah.
know, but that experience let me fully embody a whole new thing I would never have considered before, or I may have judged or something like that. And at that time, get the idea of getting a boudoir shoot would have made me feel way more vulnerable.
It's so interesting. I think I thought that too, but then when I was there, the photographer was so great and she was a big girl. And so it was like, oh, okay. It was like, she does stretches with you beforehand. She's just amazing. There was vulnerability. And for me, it was just like the perfect amount that allowed me, because too much vulnerability can send us into a trauma response.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but just like the right amount can allow us to expand. And that
Say
was
that one
just
more
that.
time. Say that one more time,
Yeah.
because you just dropped a gem there that is, if you can internalize this concept
Yeah.
and understand what's happening, you will be well on your way to liberation. So say that one more time.
Yeah, like we can sometimes try on vulnerability, and we like sends our bodies into shock, into a trauma response where we're like, I gotta run away, I gotta hide, like, or I gotta fight this. We sends us into this trauma response. But there's also a point of vulnerability where it's just enough that is a little bit outside of our comfort zone, but it allows us to know ourselves in a much more expansive way. Now we might have what I call a vulnerability hangover. I think, did I get that from Brene? Is she the one?
I think that
I
is
don't remember.
Renee, but that is so
Yeah.
true. That it be that next day it'd be like,
But there's also when you're there instead of in the trauma response, which was like too much, so I'm going to shut down and never do it again. That hangover, that's just the right point. Where you can be like, okay, I thought I was going to die. I feel maybe a little bit scared right now, but I didn't die. That's huge, right? Like the thing I thought was like, because sometimes vulnerability
used
can
to be
feel like,
like, but did you die? He would.
right.
We would have these amazing parties, and then the next day, of course, everybody talking about it in their vulnerability hangover and actual hangover, and he
Literally.
would all of a sudden be like, "But did you die? Bad decisions make great stories."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but vulnerability can feel like death. You can move into it. You can feel like, oh, I know I'm just sharing something personal, but this might actually kill me. But it's just like the ego's holding on to its protection. And like I talked about earlier, like we're meant to be these big people living these big lives. And part of that means like expanding who we know ourselves to be. So it's like taking that vulnerability little by little and expanding ourselves and expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. And sometimes, like our dear Alexis here, who's like, I'm feeling myself so much, like I'm gonna stay in this high for a while. Like
I'm trying to store some of that, so this be the past I draw from if I get a low point.
Yeah, exactly. That's
It's my
exactly
time
what it is.
embodying this conscious memory stacking because this shit feels amazing.
Yeah, and it should,
You
right?
know
It
what
should
it feels
feel
like?
good.
So I'm gonna say that this came up in a class I was in earlier, and it was actually an incredibly vulnerable, joy-filled, tearful moment for me. The thing that I've been searching for, I might cry again. The thing that I've been searching for the longest was this feeling of being loved with an
Mm-hmm.
ED. Not having to earn love, not having to do love,
Yeah.
not having to get love, but just being loved.
Yeah.
And frankly, it is because I have become the kind of self that I love.
Mm.
And I don't mean that from like yes, self-care is a part of it, but the fact that I can be in this unknown and like I don't have the mental equivalence moment and be like, I'm wearing my pajamas because it's Saturday and I'm fucking tired, but I got these Care Bears that make me happy. And I was watching Netflix before this interview. And if authenticity is my brand, then authenticity is what the fuck we gonna get. And then it'd be like, Tender Heart, Sunshine, Grumpy Bear, Cheer Bear, like all of these things while I'm still telling the stories that I would have felt like I'm not professional. Like all my code switching triggers would have came up.
Yeah.
All of my times where like we might just have to make this two parts because this shit is just juicy. But all of my like feelings of not enoughness, frankly, that's what makes me interesting. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, people don't like perfect people. They like interesting people.
Yeah.
And then the fact that I am a spiritual being having a human experience, and I do value service to myself, my family, my community, the world. I'm a whole ass do gooder.
Mm-hmm.
I go and I didn't do good to be a do gooder. I did good because it was the first hits of this chemical, this my alive, this feeling I'm feeling now. Then was the first moments that I got it. But then in those places, my ratchetness didn't belong. Not that it wasn't parts of it that made me be able to connect with my tenderhearted self, but there were like, it's not the misogyny that's there made it not safe to be my liberated self. But in those parties,
Yeah.
because in a party atmosphere, sexual expression is liberation, and a lot of dance and are in the hip hop culture is about that. Even though there's misogynoir, the thing that I feel now is everything about me is working for me and not happening to me.
Yeah.
And that feeling feels like being loved.
Mm.
And so I feel like I have arrived and I am excited because I know where I'm at on a number line. So somebody asked me, like, are you afraid it's going to go away? I said, absolutely not. Like, I don't in this moment, I do not have fear about where I'm going because I understand a process that has been working for me and giving me sure footing, and I'm able to teach it to others, and they see the similar I can see them in their timeline stuff and help them know that, like, be a part of the bypass, like the skip, the vision holder. There you go. That's the more appropriate word in that moment.
Yeah.
And I can help them develop language that speaks their truth while not being critical to themselves, because it's not about just always being super positive or like being super positive or giving toxic positive, like, you know, oh, it's every all is well and in divine order. And that, while that is a variation of life happens for me, not to me, when I'm in survival mode, you gotta tell me some shit that makes sense.
Okay.
And that's the thing, my gift of being able to articulate my feelings, and then my being an empath, helps give that highly analytical self, that strongly, the one who talk too much,
Mm-hmm.
the one who's hyper feeling. Now I'm I help people have language, and then the resilience factors begin to activate when they have language, because knowing what to do gives you clarity, especially if you are taught that you're doing is your value. And then I'm the one to teach you, like, no, you was being this, what you was being. If you keep being that, you get more of that.
Yep.
And then, oh, but wait, we got to unpack that, because there's something there. Tell me what you feel in your body when you're talking about it. Tell me where you feel it in your body when you're talking about it. Tell me, you don't have a language for it. Let's pull out this feelings wheel. Now tell me what, now if this is what you feel, tell me what events are going on. What type of thoughts do you think of when you feel like this? People don't know that that's their world reflecting back to them.
Nope.
But with the right questions, you can make those connections, and it is a rewiring and a refiring of your brain and a reset of your nervous system.
And when
You
you
don't
do
have to
that,
be present to do it.
you get more connection with spirit and source and that divine, the connection that we are all made for. We have more access to that because we're not like stuffing parts of ourselves down. It's like it like unstuffs the bottleneck
Yes.
and gives us access, and it's beautiful.
So I hate to do this because we're on such a high, but the thing that prompted this interview was this amazing post that you did about being your white friend's palatable black friend, and how you accept that as a part of your existence and one of your identities, while still having to process through your nervous system the feelings of being hurt and undervalued appropriately by them, while still knowing they have positive intention for you.
Yeah. When I wrote that post, I didn't mean to. I sat down to write a post and I had like a schedule of posts that I was going to write, and it had nothing to do with the topic at all that I had written down. But I just started and that was what came out. And I'm so touched that it's been so made such a difference with the Black women who have read it, and they're like, oh, I know this, I know this. It really expresses this big part of being a Black woman in America. Because if we don't experience it at home, so maybe home, we're surrounded, or maybe in our friend group, we're around like mostly Black people. But when we go into a corporate world, that is the world that we step into. People who are really polite and may actually care about us in their own way.
It's like being an expat.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to like speak a specific way, and you can't say the thing that you really want to say because they won't get it, and then you have to spend all your time and emotional labor explaining it. And so then you
We
just
got
get
it, like
stuck.
per my last email, like I can't remember her name, but she played on Insecure, the blonde one, with like she said in her comedy special, this is the black way this is the part of our code switching, or I know that's what she was explaining. Per my last email, which is like, bitch, did you even bother to read or see that I exist?
Yeah, yeah. And so it's like it's a line, it's a lot. I don't think I recognized like the deep impact of it until a few years ago, when a lot more of these cases, I think the Trayvon Martin case had just happened, you know, these things were starting to be a lot more public. Now, I had grown up hearing stories about that happening to people in my family, to people in my life, to Black people. Like, I knew that that happened. I knew that things like, you know, black men, Black women not being valued was a thing. And so I was no stranger to that. But processing it for the first time really as an adult with the white people in my life, because before I processed it with my family.
That now say that makes a big difference, because having to get the let's just, for the sake of the high of our previous conversation, call it contrast of these deeply traumatic second vicarious trauma.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
ugh, you like that. So that post unlocked me in a lot of ways. Even though I teach about microaggressions, that puts me in my analytical mind and not my feeling body. But then when I had taken time for reflection, like I had some really close friendships with people who we would mutually joke together about how I'm not black. They would say that shit and we would laugh, and I didn't even realize how deeply offensive it was, while still being like, yes, I am, but didn't have the
Right.
language to be like, so what is black, or knowing what they meant, or being like, I don't see color.
I mean, it's simpler to not deal with those things because you don't want to have to deal with being hurt.
I had a story that could that will articulate that hurt. So it was a 4+ year friendship,
Mm-hmm.
close, codependent, trauma bonded friendship, right?
Wow.
Like, just because this is where I woke up, right?
Yep.
So
You're not alone.
this friend had a toxic boyfriend who, she was white and he was black. And this friend and I had had conversations where, because we was codependent and extra, so like we actually crossed the threshold of talking about race. And we talked about how we can't understand each other's perspectives simply because we different. But she was highly non-confrontational. So, but her boyfriend black. And I don't really like him, but I also needed a favor, and he was willing to do it because he grew up in like this toxic world where, like, so for me, usually I don't fuck with you. Well, that's how I was. Like, I was not a forgiving person.
Right.
And but then she kept him around, and it was like, well, I need this thing. And he's not so bad. And then because I met him in that casino environment, we had been places, like, even though I didn't like him, and I didn't like him because of how he treated my friend. But even though I didn't like him, I got to be diplomatic, right? Like, so him and I don't talking like black people. We talk about issues loud and back and forth and all of this and da 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 da. And she's sitting there being really uncomfortable. And so she had interrupted, and I recognized what was going on. And I was like, hey, I know that you don't like it when people yell, but this is not that. We understand we don't agree. We're just trying to understand where each other comes from. And that's the purpose of this discussion. So this is not a confrontation like you are feeling. Right?
Right.
Because I always had language. So I'm like, hey, I see what's happening. Calm the fuck down. But let me tell you why you should calm down, because what you think is happening is not what's happening.
Exactly.
So then we go back, right? Like, all right, I think I took care of this. And then she say something again to like break it up. And I can't, and what she said was a joke that I 100%, because I know her, no, she didn't mean it in a racial way. But she was like, oh, I just want to live with the bonobo monkeys, right? I fucking love bonobo monkeys. I know here's the thing. Now, this is where the hurt comes in, because I know very well that she had just watched a documentary about the monkey. She was feeling all nature lovey, and it was not a racial thing, right? That was not.
Consciously, wasn't consciously, right?
It
Yeah.
wasn't, and I don't think and I'm gonna say this: no one, I don't think it was an unconscious thing. I genuinely think that it was. That was what was fresh on her mind, and that's what she said. I didn't even receive it like that until I was telling the story, and somebody else was like, "What the fuck she say?" Right? Like, and I'm like, "No, she ain't mean it like that." So you see how I'm like, "No, she ain't mean it like that."
Mm-hmm.
So now you see me scratch the back of my neck, though. Like, all right, now here's the other part.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because it seemed like a very resolvable thing, because I'm just mad because she's self-centered, right? You got to make it about your comfort in this moment. And we having a discussion. I done told you it ain't what your fear is. I'm going to need you to just realize it ain't about you. It's about this discussion. So I'm mad at that, because she also, remember, we was trauma bonded and codependent. She was very self-centered. And, you know, at that, when you're in that stage of accepting your toxic flaws, it's like, it's really more of a gaslighting technique than I accept that I have some flaws because I'm human and I love myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it okay to do. But in that case, it's like, well, you know, I'm just like that. That's just me, right? Like so. But she's non-confrontational, so they leave. We get into a little tiff, but I'm like, you just don't get it, right? And then they leave, and I'm not talking to her because I'm frustrated with the self-centeredness. She's not talking to me because she's afraid of confrontation. But remember, I told you I didn't like this boyfriend because of the way he treat her. He say to her, I think she think you racist. Because he,
Ooh,
remember, narcissists still be doing narcissism, right? He see the
always.
opportunity.
Always.
Meanwhile, like there was this dynamic between me and him, like I hate to say it, but like a who got her.
Mm-hmm.
And I ain't never showed nothing but love. He showed her toxicity and the promise of love. The pattern, right? So he see the opportunity, but then that's why she not talking to me. I only find out that that's why she not talking to me through a mutual friend. That shit hurt my feelings really bad, and then made me see that where I'm going, she can't go because she ain't got the chops. Because
Right.
if you would be willing to not have a conversation. I have never been anything but good to you. We codependent. I've been there for you just like you've been there for me. We have this like build each other up style relationship. We both have some trauma and stuff in our background. So when we have emotional responses, we supportive, and she helped me do stuff in my house. I went to family weddings and things with her. Like we were friends. And now, because you can't take confrontation, you can't even ask me if I think you're racist. And you then, too, you let him, who ain't never been nothing but bad to you, but only give you the promise of being good to you, make you not talk to me.
Right.
And we got years in this.
Yeah. That's painful.
I couldn't get over it.
Yeah.
In the sense that it is because it looks too much like you care about me for you to then I had abandonment issues. So for you to be able to just disregard me because you're afraid to have a conversation, I can't exist in that kind of instability because how it triggered me. That don't mean I don't, like, now at this stage I have a forgiving heart and I've done some tender heart work. And so I understand that that was her trauma response, and everybody has a healing journey to go through, and that is her work to do. But because of the way that I'm built, that's not work that I'm willing to do with people, because I value this surreal feeling I'm having, because I love myself, because I'm the kind of person that I can love. I
Right.
am the kind of, like, so that was one where it really hurt because we were actual friends, but trauma and race separated our relationship. And that's also why I teach actively authentic allyship.
Yeah.
because that's not the only experience I've had like that with my white friends.
Yep.
And in order for me to be the kind of spiritual being I want to be, I got to understand that that's an intersectionality too,
Yep.
and then do what I need to do in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I, you experience that as such a painful experience. Other Black people have as well, especially as these things are going on, and you have white people that you're close to, and all of a sudden this topic comes up and you're in pain. You're like experience this vicarious trauma again and again and again. Another Black man dies, another Black woman dies, another trans woman dies. Like all these things are happening, and you're in grief. And then they are like the Homer Simpson backing into a bush gif, and you're like alone.
Or even worse, they're like, well, what did they do? They go into this victim blaming spiral.
Just haven't not heard all the facts. We need
Right.
more facts. We just need to be objective about this, guys.
And here's the thing, even if there is a modicum of validity to that, if you are a person who's supposed to be in relationship and cares and loves about me, why would you even fucking talk to me like that when I'm in my trauma response? Don't fucking, sorry, I just got in my own trauma response right again. And that brought up the point that that kind of shit turn you into grumpy bear and make you less trusting because you got to live.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember a friend who was like, when the announcement for George Zimmerman, when he was found not guilty, someone said, oh, well, they couldn't prove it in court. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, are you not grieving the fact that this Black teenager who was walking down the street was hunted when he was told not to? The only thing that you can say is, oh, there wasn't legally strong. The case wasn't legally strong enough. Like, that's what you have. And I only realized that, it changed our relationship. And because it's like, how can I be fully open when that's your reaction?
How do I feel? Yeah, I got to protect myself, because then if I go further in a breakdown, you don't have it anymore to comfort me. Now you're going to start trying to talk me out of my feelings.
Exactly.
And because you don't want to feel you don't want to understand my position, because you would have to then see your position.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean you wrong. It doesn't mean you the one that did it. But if you're having cognitive dissonance, which is what that is, that means you have separated someone's humanity from them. And you got to come up with that, because you understand that humanity too much to be in what is alignment with your values.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it takes work, and it takes a hell of a lot of optimism, because I'm at another cycle in my life. And some of my closest relationships, I have a few close relationships with white women, and I'm finding very much support and allyship with them. Yeah. And that is in its own, I had to open myself up to that again.
Yeah.
Because I have found allyship with white people, but because of my trauma response to disappointment, there was a period where it was difficult for me to feel comfortable in that vulnerability.
Yeah.
Which made me a little bit less embodied in those friendships.
Yeah. And one thing that I, as I'm doing anti-racism work, I talk to white people about this. Like, you can't choose whether or not you're safe. You're not the one who gets to judge that. Only the person that you say that you're an ally for can actually judge that. You can do all the things that you think make you be safe and still be hella harmful. So what you have to do is check in with the people who, you think that you are being an advocate or an ally for. And if people are not feeling safe, you have to actually just like let go of your ego long enough to be able to listen and make those changes that are necessary to create the true safety that you want. You can't just get caught up in your intentions and recognize, and not deal with the impact. Because that's often where people get just stuck.
Yeah. Stuck because it's kind of, well, I didn't mean to. I'm not telling you that you meant to hurt me.
Yeah.
I'm informing you that you did and asking you to care enough about me to not do it again.
Yep.
I'm not trying to vilify you, but then when you defend, it is hard to defend. It is hard not to vilify you when you are defending your right to hurt me.
Yep.
And I understand and completely agree with the lesson that you teach, but I often don't start there.
Oh, no.
And I'll start there because, frankly, then the rest of the things I have to say aren't going to be heard. And that's the part that makes it emotional labor.
No, I that's like the last phase in our work.
Right.
That is the last phase, because there's a lot of other stuff that has to happen. First, for me, is actually understanding who you are, understanding like what makes you who you are, and getting in touch with your thoughts, your feelings, your nervous system reactions, and learning how to develop a response rather than a reaction. That's our first work. That's like, I don't, because
yeah, that's the inner work. If you don't have that skill, I will not feel safe in your allyship, no matter how many good things you do.
Exactly.
Because if I see the way that you react in anger is in a way that could cause me harm in my Blackness, I will not feel safe in my vulnerability with you, because my Blackness is a part of my physical existence, and survival is a part of my spiritual responsibility for my body.
Yep.
Not that I understand that I am not my body, but my body is my spirit's gift, and its survival is a part of my responsibility as a spiritual being. And I cannot feel safe or like I'm being a good steward of my body.
Yep.
If I let you harm me from your own trauma response, you might not be able to be the kind of person I can be close with.
Yep. Yeah.
So
those are hard decisions.
But that's a part of life. And you know what? The more strength you develop in being able to make those decisions, the more surreal and experiential your reality gets.
Yeah.
So I want to take this time. We got Cheer Bear here, and I am also very delighted in the way these things are coming to me right now. To make sure that we give some time to cheer what it is that you are doing, and let people know how they can connect with you and what services you're willing to provide in this now moment, because you have every right to change your mind. So let's cheer you on.
Yeah, right now I am in the middle of launching a program that starts in October. It's called Free Yourself, and it is for Black women and non-Black women of color. And it is through the lens of the Enneagram, a decolonization, like get whiteness out of your system to find self-trust, self-love, self-confidence, and embodied freedom that you choose instead of waiting for someone else to come along, because the people who are the oppressor don't have the answer to freedom. We have the answer to freedom. We know what it is, but we have been taught to not trust ourselves. We have been taught that our voices don't matter and that they're irrelevant, and that's not true. So this program is 6 months, and it's to get people in touch with who you know yourself to be and the truth that that you have been taught to tamp down and to water down to make it palatable to other people. So I'm really excited about that. That's a big thing that I'm doing. And I also do work with white people. So right now I have a 9-month program for white people called Disrupt the Narrative. And that's, I don't know if I'll launch that again. We'll see. I'm going to feel into it. It's a great program, but I'm here for Black women healing. And so I know that the secondary impact of working with white people is less oppression. So I'm still feeling out whether I'll do that again, but I did just open up 4 slots for one-on-one coaching in a 12-week intensive. So it's 12 weeks. It's private one-on-one with access to me via Marco Polo. And it is a deep dive into Enneagram and anti-racism. And so there's homework every week. There's going to be assignments. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is for people who really want to make a difference and who know that their time is now. And so if that's you, feel free to reach out to me. The best way, I love Instagram. I'm on Instagram like 24 hours a day, is Jessica D. Dickson, Dickson coaching. So find me there and connect with me, send me a DM, and we will get you all settled up. Yeah, I think that's all I got.
Well, we're going to beam the cheer right on out to all of that, because we need it all. We need it all. And then now I'm going to take my turn to get my cheers on.
Yes.
I have my Actively Authentic Allyship course, and that is a course for white women. There are 5 spots left, and this Friday is the last day to be able to join, because it's a 10-week program, and part of creating a safe space is building community. So there's 5 spots, and this is the last week you're able to join. But we do this deep inner work. We go through and unpack some of the unpleasant things and teach that process of like, oh, I did an unpleasant thing, but am I going to choose to keep doing it? Right? What do I need in order to stop doing this unpleasant thing? And how can I give that to myself? Because we start with work with self first. In that program, you'll also understand American history in a more accurate way. And by American, I mean US American history in a more accurate way. Because I'm on my own allyship journey, you'll get a little bit of information through experience about pronouns and what it means and things to think about and new empathy techniques to be able to incorporate how to be empathetic in a racialized society. And then I am taking one-on-one clients. I have 5 spots open. I work with people one-on-one with personal transformation, and we work with the energies of intuition, astrology, and trying to do things when it's efficient to do so. If any of the methods and techniques that I've talked about today resonate with you, maybe we can have a consultation call, or if you want to give me some feedback about what y'all think about wellness the ratchet way, because a reclamation of your authentic self and how that sounds to you, I would love to hear about that, because that is a download that came this week that I would really like to birth. So if that's something that resonates with you, or you want to be a part of that birthing process, you can reach out to me on Facebook and Instagram at Ask Alexis. On Instagram, it's Ask Alexis 111. It's also on Facebook, it's Ask Alexis. I think it's just Ask Alexis, but there's an avatar that looks like me with my hair to the side. And then you can reach me by email at askalexis111@gmail.com. Slide in my DMs and give me some questions that you want me to make these videos about, because I have, obviously, if you're watching this, you know I have a YouTube channel. And content is something that we need to create in a more authentic way. Right now, I'm really loving this Care Bear thing. So if you want to ask me some questions, I'll figure out how to use these 4 Care Bears. Now I got to get some more though. But we use these I need the red and the purple one. Oh, and the green one, because it's a green one too. We can figure out how to explain it. And I give you all this super sciencey knowledge coupled with this ratchet, clear, palatable explanation. This has been a wonderful, so that's how you reach me. Sorry, sometimes I jump ahead. This has been a wonderful conversation. It is amazing to be able, so just so y'all know, we started recording because we just dived right in. And I like being able to walk into that, I like being able to lead with vulnerability and have safety and love and inclusion returned. And that is the wonderful part of this conversation with you. Thank you so much for being a reflection of that.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that was really touching.
That's a part of the surreal feeling, okay? Because I mean the fuck out of that shit, and it's surreal to be able to mean it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, love. This has been so great. Yeah. I just appreciate you and who you are in the world. So keep
Thank
being amazing and authentic, and you're you're a world changer.
Thank you. That is the goal. And thank you all for watching. We're over an hour for show, but if you watched it all and you understand how good this was, work with us, hire us, because know this. While we had a lot of fun, we also know how to be gentle and soothing, and it's your work to do.
Yep.
Love you. Bye.